Hey, this is the third video for my YouTube channel, Maximum Chess Academy. I'm Coach Max, or field instructor Max Nitzborn, and I'm trying to make videos or create content for my students to learn from my games. And I call this series Lessons from My Games. So, here we go. I played against a young player, a beginner, the 13th of May 1995. And I played e4 here, and my opponent played e5, the king's pawn opening. And yeah, I played my knight to f3, attacking the pawn, and then she defended by playing the knight to c6, and now she's protecting the pawn on e5, so I cannot capture it again. And then you have this idea where you play the Spanish, play your bishop to b5 with the idea of capturing the knight, which is the protector of the pawn, and then you can grab the pawn of your knight. But the opening principles state that you should not go for pawn grabbing in the opening stage of the game, and you should not play the same piece twice, so you have to be very careful. So let me just demonstrate what can happen if my opponent played, for example, the normal move a6 here, the opening move, and then here you should retreat to a4, but you can also capture the knight. And if the opponent captures back, the opponent can capture with the d pawn on c6, and then if you grab the pawn, now the queen will jump to or move to d4, attacking the knight and the pawn. So you will get, black will get back the material and equalize the game. It's check, and now queen here, check, check. You lost your right to castle. So this is what could happen. So it is not worth it. White should not do that, especially if white wants to win the game, because that will just end in a draw, of course. And if you capture and the opponent capture with the, you can black can also capture with the b pawn, and you can still not take the knight, because guess what, here the queen will come to g5, attacking the knight, the double attack, and also attack the pawn on g2. So again, you cannot take this, you cannot take that pawn. It's a poison pawn, and black will have a pleasant game. So watch out, don't play like that against the Spanish. Here the knight jumped to f6, and we have what we call the Berlin defense for black. And imagine, in 1995 I already knew the Berlin. I hear kids nowadays running around talking about the Berlin. So when I hear that, then I just smile, because I know what I know. Here I played white. I just castled. That's the normal moves. And then what should be happening here is knight takes. This is the proper. This is how you play the Berlin in the proper way. Knight to captures on e4, pawn to d4, knight back to d6, bishop takes on c6, pawn takes on c6, pawn takes on e5, the knight jumps to f5 because you have to get out of the way. Then white captures a queen, black cannot castle anymore, but black can defend. Kramnik used this defense against Kasparov in the 2000s to defeat him. And then after that, knight to c3, and then king to e8. This is the theory. That's the first theoretical moves that you can play. The first 10 moves here, you can go h3, a5, bishop to f4, just to show the first 10 moves of the Berlin defense, the proper way it should be played. However, f6, bishop, I castled, my opponent played bishop to c5. This is also a line of the Berlin defense, the Beverwijk line or variation. And then here I captured on e5. My opponent played pawn to d6. This is a mistake, because now black is losing material. For example, I can capture here. If black captures back, I capture on c6 check. If the bishop interposed, then I grab the rook and the queen grabs, and white is better because, of course, if you look at the development of pieces, we can see that black has more pieces, especially the minor pieces in the game, but white is up the exchange but behind in development, and black did not castle yet. So, but white is slightly better here. Or shall we say much better, because if you look at the pawns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here we still have 8 pawns. So white has a huge advantage and threatens to play this move, for example. Next. Okay. And then bring out the white pieces rapidly. Black still needs a castle, but white can bring out his pieces with tempi. So that could have been the line. However, after my opponent played d6, I captured the knight on c6. My opponent responded with d7. Now this is a huge blunder, because not only did I capture the knight, I also threatened to capture the queen. The queen is hanging on d8. The queen is 9 points. My opponent played the wrong move, a blunder, bishop to d7, and I captured the queen. Opponent returned the favor by capturing my knight on d8. And then of course, I can play my bishop back and continue with my development, but I decided to exchange the pieces. Bishop captures d7, the rook captures on d7, and then I played my rook to e1. The idea is to support my pawn, and then I want to play this pawn next, if allowed. Of course, my opponent castled here, he still tried to fight on, and I played my pawn to d4, and now you can see that I control the center, total dominance in the center. And if you control the center, it is said that whoever controls the center is likely, 99.9% likely to win the game. And here I played a4. I'm trying to trap the bishop. My next move is to go here, and then the bishop will not have any squares to go to unless she pushes this pawn forward or this one. So that's the idea. And luckily for this, she saw this, and then she played c5. I ignored the threat on my pawn. I played bishop to g5. I want to get my pieces out as quickly as possible. And here she captures on d4, capturing my pawn. And then I responded by capturing knight on f6. Okay, here I want you to look 3 moves deep and see why knight captures f6 is a good move. Can you see what happens if the opponent responds with g7 captures on f6? I'll give you a moment to think about if the opponent captures back, what would be the next winning move for white to play. White is already winning, but something big is coming if the opponent were to capture back. Okay, if you got it right, congratulations, because the idea is very simple. Bishop captures. If the pawn captures back, then I would simply play my queen to g4, attacking the king and the rook. And that, dear student, we call a double attack with the queen. This is the pivot. Queen to g4 would be the answer. If the king moves out of the way, say to h8, then I capture the rook on d7. So my opponent saw that, and instead of after I captured, my opponent actually saw that and played pawn to a5. I still played my queen to g4. I'm threatening to give checkmate, and I'm threatening to capture the rook on d7. And my opponent opted to run away with the rook, and I delivered checkmate on g7. That was Schachmatorowski, and as you can see, My queen attacks all the squares, and my bishop protects my queen, so the opponent could not escape. The king is in checkmate. The king is dead. I checkmated the black king on g8. So what did we learn from this game? Let's start from the beginning. King's pawn opening, develop your pieces, everything's perfect. We've learned that you cannot win this pawn by capturing bishop on c6. If the opponent captures back like this, black can get back the pawn like this, and the game can continue. Alternatively, if the opponent captures with this pawn, even if you capture the pawn with the b pawn, you cannot capture an e5 because again the opponent will get the pawn back. So that's lesson number 1 from this game. But that's not what happened. The opponent played knight to f6. I castled. The opponent played bishop to c5, and here I captured the pawn. Of course, the lesson or what I usually share with my students is that you should not play the same piece twice. But here I had an interesting idea that I want to fork the 2 pieces, and I'm getting a central pawn of the opponent, you know, and that is why I played this move. Now my opponent did not capture. My opponent should have captured the knight here, and then if I played here, my opponent could have played here. If I played the bishop back, then my opponent could capture this pawn, and then I'll probably capture like this. So this was a possible way of playing the game. Alternatively, I could have captured here as well. So we have a lot of ideas here. So, but my opponent did not like any of those ideas and opted to play d6, which is actually a huge blunder. And now, my opponent, the big lesson here is that my opponent didn't know the opening theory, and it's purely because she was a beginner at the time, and she could not save her queen. She lost her queen. It was better to give up the rook than to lose the queen here. Try and save the queen instead of saving the rook. This would have been a better way for her to play. So that's lesson number 3. And so she lost. Once she lost the queen, it was game over. And if you can control the center, lesson number 4, control the center if you can, dominate the center if you can, go after the opponent's pieces, and then attack the king. Develop your pieces all as at the same time, and then make a move that is multi-purpose. Meaning, lesson number 5, I'm threatening checkmate, and I'm threatening to capture the rook. So no mercy, unfortunately, just a game of war, and you should have the killer instinct. And if the opponent does not see or decide to save the rook instead of the king, then you deliver checkmate. So that's, I think, my 5 lessons from this very short game, only 15 moves and miniature. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you learned something from it. Thank you very much. Please like and subscribe so that I can continue do this work, providing chess content for my students and anyone who would like to learn more about this beautiful game of chess. Thank you and goodbye.